guys, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you some orchids that I've gotten through the years from you guys. So I wanted to thank everybody who sent me orchids in the last 3 years since I've started this channel. And through the years, I've swapped orchids with other folks on this channel. I've received orchids as gifts, and 3 years later, I still have a lot of these orchids, and I want to show you updates on some of the favorite ones that I've received. I also want to thank you for sending them through. So I'm going to show you a couple of different orchids that are some of my favorites, and while I'm showing them to you, I'm going to talk about their care, some struggles that I've had, and just have a conversation on how it's going realistically as I've been growing these. So some of them have not been as perfect to grow, like I've had thrips on some of them, so I'm going to talk about that. I haven't been able to keep up with watering on some of them. I'll talk about that. Some of them have new growths that lean sideways. I'll talk about that, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you guys like this kind of video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more orchid content. Let's jump right in. So the first orchid that I want to show you guys is this dendrobium. This one is the Dendrobium Pink Sparkle. I got this from Michael McCarthy about 2 years ago. He sent me the Dendrobium Jonathan's Dark Joy, and this one and a couple of seedlings. So he sent me a nice variety of things. I always go back to this one because it is such a compact dendrobium. It flowers a lot and the flowers last a really long time. Also, it seems to produce multiple flower spikes per cane, so it's really nice. I have it in a little cup. This is probably 3.5 inches, and I have it in semi-hydro. I'm gonna remove it from this setup at some point, but I just noticed today that it has a spike on it. This one's really beautiful. It's called Pink Sparkle because the flowers, they do kind of shimmer a bit. They're really nice, and look at how compact it is. It's one of my favorites because when Michael gave it to me, he told me this one it grows quite tightly, it doesn't get too tall, and this is probably maybe 8-9 inches tall maximum. So it's been growing really nicely in my care. Tiny cup. I love these kinds of dendrobiums, so I wanted to show this one off. This is a good one if you guys don't have space in your collection. Highly recommend the Dendrobium Pink Sparkle. Once it starts blooming, you'll know what I mean. No fragrance, but you don't get the denphals for their fragrance. You get them for the blooms, the bloom count, and the vigor, really. This one, I really enjoy it. I have 3 here from Michael McCarthy, so this one is quite nice, and I got it last year. I think this one is the Cattleya Vicky Andrews. So this is quite a vigorous Cattleya hybrid. Let me show you. So I got it about a year ago, and Michael sent it to me. He said he had to divide his, and this one has taken off, and it has not stopped growing. I put it in coconut husk and some moss. It has some perlite in it as well, and it's just really taken off. Now, I did lose one of the growths here. It had like a fungal infection, so I cut it off, but it's been growing quite tightly in every single direction possible. I've had to kind of like group it together so it could stay, but I might be able to divide this the next time I repot it. We have a new growth coming in here, and so far I'm keeping it in this pot since it hasn't grown outside of the pot yet. And when this bloomed, it had a really nice fragrance. I like to describe fragrance if it's floral or a little bit spicy or fruity, but I remember this one being like a cologne. Like, it wasn't super floral, and it wasn't kind of your Cattleya, your typical Cattleya fragrance. It was something, it smelled really nice. It was so hard to describe, but think of like a cologne. It was like a little bit spicy, but not, it wasn't super floral. It wasn't super sweet. It was just this like, I can't even describe it, but I really enjoy this one. I can't wait for it to bloom again, and I've enjoyed growing this one in my collection. This one's the Cattleya Vicky Andrews. Okay, this other one that I'm going to show you is the last one I'm going to show you from Michael, And this one, I'm really excited about it. This one is the Brassolalia Richard Mueller crossed with the Cattleya labiata. And I want to show it off because we have a spike right here. So I'm really excited to see it bloom for the very first time. Those of you who follow me in this channel know that I really love Richard Mueller hybrids. They're extremely vigorous. They bloom almost from every single growth. I just up potted it. I just threw it in here with the old media and it is taking off. I put it mostly in bark with a tiny bit of moss in there, and it's in a 6-inch pot. And I'm very excited to see this. It hasn't skipped a beat. I got it a couple of months ago, and Michael sent it over to me after his bloom because he knows that I really like these. So I want to thank you so much for sending this through. And I just find that Richard Mueller hybrids, they tend to be very different. So I have maybe a dozen different Richard Mueller hybrids. I have one with the Cattleya triumphans, for example, and that one is really big. That one's probably my biggest hybrid. I have one with the Richard Mueller and the Cattleya Mark Jones, and that one is quite tiny, and that one's very compact. And then this one is more like medium to compact size, so it's not super big, but the colors on this one is going to be different. It's supposed to be like a little pink, a little bit purple. Most of my Richard Mueller hybrids are like yellow, so this one's going to be a little bit different, so I'm excited about it. And as I said, I love the vigor that these have. When it grew out, this one was growing to the side. I ended up leaning this against the wall so it could grow a little bit more upright. Otherwise, I didn't tie it together. But Michael told me before it hardens off, I want to tie it in here, which is a good point. I have a lot of Cattleyas that sometimes they'll grow a growth and they'll grow down, and then I'm stuck with the Cattleya and it's like growing this way. So moving forward, I'm going to be more careful and mindful of that, because that's the only way you could really keep a collection. When a big collection, without it taking over your space, you have to be mindful of the new growths and train them to grow upright. And I've been talking about it for a while, but I'm going to be adding like a little potting desk in my grow space. I haven't put it in there yet. Quite frankly, it's been too hot for me to just hang around in the grow room, so I haven't been doing much repotting, much maintenance. I really got to flush the collection, but that's besides the point. When you get a growth and it's pointing sideways, you kind of want to get it up before it hardens off. So that's something I'm going to be focusing on as my collection grows and as all my Cattleya orchids get bigger. But anyway, I will show you guys when this blooms. Hopefully we'll have an update for the end of the month. And I'm really excited. And we also have another new growth coming in right here. This one's going to be vigorous and I can't wait to smell it. So the next orchid that I want to show you guys is a Dendrobium nobile type. I don't have too many of these, and there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you at the end. But this one is the Dendrobium Country Girl. And this was gifted to me by my friend Ray. He's another grower here in New York City, and he got his from William Green. And he gave me a division, and I'll never forget, he gave it to me when I quit my job 2 years ago, and we met up for lunch, and he gave me a piece. And it was just like 3 canes, and now it's starting to grow so much better this year. It's pushing out new growths from the base here. First year it took a while to settle, and this year it's really coming through. I would love to see some growths reach the maximum height of this one. That'll take some time though, but we have some new growths here at the bottom. They're not done growing. You kind of know when the nobiles are done growing when they have this little top leaf here. But we have these here that are continuing, so I'm curious if they can rival this size. And I would love it if I'm gonna stop the fertilizing. I'm gonna give it a little cool off. You guys can check out my Dendrobium nobile care videos to see how I get them to bloom. But I'm going to give it a cool off period now that it's adjusted and now that it's growing properly. And I look forward to seeing the flowers. The flowers are pink. William Green has always shown his, so I'm very curious to see how it looks like, how the fragrance is, and This one has been in my collection for 2 years, so I'm excited to finally see it bloom one day, and I hope that's gonna be next early winter, around there. They tend to bloom late fall, early winter, after the temperatures have really cooled and you stop giving it fertilizer. So this one didn't bloom last year because it was adapting, so now it's gonna bloom and hopefully I could start getting annual blooms from it. But when I have an orchid that's not giving me blooms constantly, I really prefer when the blooms happen twice a year, 3 times a year. That's ideal for me. More than that, and I really enjoy them. That's why I really like Richard Mueller hybrids. So because they don't bloom as often, I won't be getting more of them. But I do cherish the ones that I do have just because they are very fragrant. They are cute, and they also bloom in times where a lot of my orchids don't bloom. So I will be keeping it to 3, and I'm very thankful for this one that I got from my friend Ray. So thank you, Ray. So you guys have seen this recently, but I'm excited to show it because these are new for me. And this one is my jewel orchid, and it's starting to grow a new leaf right here. I got this from my friend Maria. Thank you, Maria. This is my very first jewel orchid. You grow it mostly for the foliage. It kind of shimmers. Very, very pretty. So it's the only jewel orchid that I have. It's also growing a leaf right here, and I'm excited to see it grow. So normally orchids, you grow for the flowers. This is the first orchid that I have that I'm growing for the beautiful foliage. You can't really see it here, but it kind of shimmers a bit, and it's just beautiful. These leaves are very velvety. They have little stripes in them as well, and these also do flower, but it's really for the foliage that you want to grow them. I try to water this as it dries out, and then I give it more water again. It is in a terrestrial mix. These are a little bit different than some of the other orchids, so they need a little bit more moisture. As I get to know this orchid a bit more, I will do a care video on how I take care of these here, but I want to have it in my collection a while longer. It's only been about 3 months that I've had this in my care, but it's been really nice to see these grow and push in new leaves. And I hear that some people really get into these different kinds of jewel orchids, so we'll see if I'm converted. So thank you, Maria. Really love this one. So the last orchid that I'm gonna show you is my Dendrobium Jonathan's Glory Dark Joy. I got this from Paula Marsh. Thank you so much. And this was a replacement for the Jonathan's Dark Glory that I got from Michael McCarthy about 2 years ago. So I had mine in semi-hydro and it died, and I was so sad about it. It just declined out of nowhere. It was fine, then it wasn't fine. So Paula kindly sent me this orchid, and it's growing really nicely. I've had it in my care for about 3 months. I put it in here and mostly sphagnum moss. I topped it off with bark. It's in a clay pot, but admittedly, I need to do better with the watering. So it's pushing in new roots. It's no longer wobbly. Like when you first repot an orchid, it needs to establish its root system. So I put a stake in here just to make sure the roots can go down nicely. And they have started to do that. With that said, the clay pots dry out very fast. So even though there's a lot of moss in this pot, in my environment here in New York City, this will dry out within 3 days, sometimes 2 days, because I get temperatures sometimes in the room of 95 degrees. So I've been watering it twice a week. I need to really be watering it like 3-4 times a week when it's like 95 degrees. Thankfully, the crazy temperatures are almost over, so I'll be able to keep up with this, but I'm definitely gonna drench it a bit more. And I just wanna be honest about it because it's a little shriveled. That way you guys can tell, and when you see your orchids, you can compare and see, like, you know, they're not all perfect. I sometimes can't keep up with all the watering, with all the collection, so I just like to be realistic. You're not always gonna have everything perfect, you know? With that said, I find that my dendrobiums in general, and this one in particular, are thrips magnets. So I had some thrips when I got it. I noticed thrips in my collection. I do have to treat my collection again. I'm noticing just a few here and there. And before I get an infestation, I really need to nip it in the bud. But you could see some damage behind the leaves. And is that a thrip right there? No, that's not a thrip. That's just a dark spot. But it kind of like damages the leaves quite a bit. So I find that dendrobiums in general, especially some of my Australian dendrobiums, this one as well, this one is, I believe, an Aussie den. My den files, not sure what's up with that, but my thrips, I hate them. My thrips, the thrips, they just attack all of my dendrobiums. So I gotta do a treatment soon, and I'll take care of it, and hopefully they won't come back for the winter, but now's the season for pests. So anyway, I will keep this hydrated. I'll make sure I keep it alive. These are very hardy, so this one's gonna be just fine. I believe that the issue last time was it because it was in semi-hydro, so I'm gonna hydrate it well. As the temperatures cool, I'll be able to keep up with the watering really well, and I can't wait to get blooms on it. I'm hoping I get blooms in the fall. We'll see. We have some new growths coming in on the bottom, and I think this one's gonna do well. So thank you so much for this one, Paula. If you guys made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. I wanted to show you orchids that I've gotten over the years that are some of my favorites, and although some have not bloomed yet, like the Labiata hybrid, I can't wait to see it. I love Richard Mueller hybrids. Again, this was not an exhaustive list. I don't want to make this video too long, but if there's something you want to see an update on, let me know down below and I'll show you next month. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.